point.
Well, when you say looking to buy a rural property, is it like to maybe like start your own sort of homestead, to garden, grow your own food, or
Yeah, I have
just
been.
have a bit more?
I, it's a bit of freedom, a bit of kind of want to start my own thing because I want to have like my family did have a bit of property and then my parents split up and then that ended up getting sold. So I don't want to end up like when I eventually have kids, I don't want to end up leaving them with basically nothing. Just like, oh, here's a bit of
Yeah,
inheritance. It's not land or anything. You kind of have to like go get your own place. I don't want to put my descendants in a situation like that. I want to be able to, I guess, buy something like land and then pass it on. And even if it's not like even if it's like nothing much, it's still something that you can pass on. And land, as you've said in lots of videos, is one of the most valuable things you can purchase.
yeah, it's very very tangible and it's got a lot of applications. Whether that's house, farming, or even just being able to have the space you want.
Mm.
Because like in a city, if you're in an apartment, chances are, unless you're on the ground floor, you're getting no garden, or you're getting maybe a tiny balcony that you can maybe grow some plants on. But it's just very, very cramped, very condensed. And I mean, so many studies show how much happier people in rural areas are compared to being in a city.
Yeah, well, back to the apartment for just a bit. Even if you
Yep,
purchase an apartment room, like a apartment, whatever, studio apartment, can you really say that you own it because someone else owns the building?
exactly. That's funny enough. That's a point I made to my wife a few weeks back. So we were looking at buying a house in like sort of suburban area,
Hmm.
and what do you call it in Australia? Maybe would it be semi-detached?
Yeah, oh,
So you have,
yeah, same thing.
yeah. We were looking at something like that, and I said no, because do we really own it if we can't knock down every wall ourselves?
Hmm.
Because you're kind of bound by the rules of what you share with that other person, whether it's a wall or your border is joined perfectly. So, I mean, take that and apply it to apartment. It's even bigger. Someone else owns a building. Someone else owns walls connected to your walls. In fact, it's the same wall, really. So, what do you own? What don't you own? It's the line's so blurry, and it's so easily exploited at the same time. Someone sells a building, they can change all sorts of aspects, like maybe even change your water rates because they own the building, or it depends on, of course, protections from
Hmm.
government or various contracts. But it really just it makes all the lines so blurry.
Well, that is part of the reason I do want to get out of like I'm not living in the city. I live in the suburbs. I'm pretty close to the city. It's only like a half-hour drive, so it's not too far. But this is about as close as I could like tolerate being to the city. The place I'm in right now is like what would you even call a house that's not attached to another house? Just a regular house. It's not we have fences on either
Uh,
side of the house. Um,
Detached, maybe.
I don't know. It's a proper house. It's not attached to another building. Um,
Yeah, I would say detached.
so right, and if I was to actually buy my own place, because right now I'm renting, the easiest way to do that would just be able to move like out into the country. Plus, I do have a lot of like like family out in the rural areas anyway, because that's where a lot of my family did come from. Because a lot of on I guess from my mother's side, a lot of them were like farming families, and then
Okay.
starting with my mother's generation, they started moving like inwards because that's where the work really was being. If you didn't want to be a farmer,
Yeah.
and I think
I mean, it's kind
a lot of people are going to
of
struggle with that as as the cities get bigger. There's going to be less and less work, and they don't really know where to go.
and as automation kind of increases, going back to our previous point,
Hmm.
like things like if there's self-driving cars, then that's going to take over the bus routes. It's going to take over trains. It's going to take over taxis. It's going to be very, very hard to find so many different types of jobs, like you say. So people are going to come out trying to find something in the countryside because like the big advances in tech don't always make their way to the small towns as fast.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Especially with like where my mother's living right now. They like you go there and it feels like you've stepped back like 15, 20 years because like obviously there is still a lot of advancements out there, but because there's not as much money being circulated in that area, it takes a lot longer for it to actually expand. Also,
Yeah,
at least in this area, there's a lot of elderly people as well, so they're not really dying to buy the newest tech anyway.
yeah, they don't really care, and it's in some ways it's great.
Hmm.
I'm in two minds about it. Sometimes I like going out and it's completely refreshing, thinking, "Wow, I can just put my phone away and just don't want to sound like a hippie, I guess, but you can just be. You can just go out and just do what you want, and you don't need to worry about being connected all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're in the city or in a town, you're constantly thinking, right, I need to check my phone, need to be able to get a map to wherever I need to go, or need to get in a car and drive somewhere, GPS on, or it kind of fries the brain a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit too much stimulation from all of the tech that's around you.